Hi folks, the real estate numbers are in for May. I've got some good news, I've got some bad news. Now there's a lot of data, a lot of information. I'm going to focus in on a few key interesting points that I think are really important for you to know. But the rest of the data and the numbers and everything I've put together, you could find at VaughanRealEstateInsider.com or give me a call, 647-298-5491, and I'd be happy to send them to you or go into detail on what's most important for you and your neighborhood. Okay, so let's look at the Market Watch. This is a report that TREB, the Toronto Real Estate Board, puts out every month. It's a 27-page report. And right on their first page, they're showing sales are down 22.2%, and the average price is down 6.6%. That's the bad news. Now what they're doing is comparing May this year to May last year. But for the good news, let's look a little bit closer. When we look at all of the TREB areas and we focus in just on January, prices have gone up every month since January. And in fact, we're sitting on average prices on a 12-month high. Does that sound like it's a terrible market to you? Things are looking good. It all depends on how you're looking at it. So let's take a closer look at Vaughan. Average sold prices are up. They've been increasing actually every single month this year. If you were thinking of buying in January, and I've spoken to many buyers in January that have told me, we want to buy, but because of the way the market is doing terrible and falling, we're going to wait for prices to be better. Well, if that's what you were thinking in January, fast forward to today, and it's only 5 months later, you are going to spend, on average, $99,000 more to buy a house. So prices have been going up. They've been creeping up every single month between January and now. Now, if we still focus on Vaughan and looked at detached homes, same thing. Prices are up. On average, you're going to spend $96,000 more on a detached home in Vaughan. So my second question for you is, if you're buying or selling, what's more important to you? The current market or the market a year ago? Well, obviously, what's happening right now is the most important thing. Let's change gears for a bit. We hear everywhere about buyer's market, seller's market, months of inventory. Let's take a closer look at this. If we're looking at all of TREB, now TREB, the Toronto Real Estate Board, covers all of the Toronto area. It covers way out to Oshawa, goes north, goes way out to Burlington. It's a huge area. And when we look at months of inventory, it's basically supply and demand. Focusing on, if we look at the current listings that we have on the market, and we base it on how many are being purchased, how much inventory, how long would it take us to use up all the listings? So when we look at all the Toronto area, the answer to that question is 2.7 months. Now, does that sound like it's a terrible situation that in 2.7 months, if no new listings come on the market, they'll be all gone? That sounds pretty good. But let's focus in on just the city of Toronto, the 416 area. And the months of inventory is 1.9. Rounded up to 2 months, that's a fairly healthy turnover. To me, that does not sound like a bad market. Here's an interesting fact. Condos in the city of Toronto accounted for more than half of all the sales, 56%. Let's get back to Vaughan for a second here. Now, the general rule, as months of inventory go down, prices tend to go up. Supply and demand. You lower supply, prices go up. Well, it's very clear in the first quarter of last year, that's exactly what was happening. Homes were being bought very, very quickly there were few to choose from, and prices were going up. That's not so clear in this part of the year, from January to now. Although we can see evidence of months of inventory going up and down and prices changing, I think a lot has to do with confusion. Confusion from what the government is doing as far as trying to regulate prices, confusion as to what the media is announcing out there, confusion as to people see a list price of a property for sale, then they see the price being reduced and reduced, then it's sold, and they see that list price coming down as the market is dropping, and that's not true. It might have been listed at the wrong price to begin with, and in fact, we just purchased a property for a buyer client of ours just yesterday. That home was previously listed at almost 1.5, which was way off of what the price should have been, and we bought it for just under 1.2 million. Our client is happy, and the seller actually got the market price. So it's really important to understand what's really happening out there. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Well, when we look at all of TREB, when we look at the city of Toronto, it's very clear. The answer is it is not a buyer's market. It's still a very healthy seller's market, not to the extreme it was at the beginning of last year, but we're still very much in a seller's market. And one of the key factors of that is that prices are creeping up. Because if it was a full-fledged buyer's market, prices would be creeping down. When we take a closer look at Vaughan, in general, all of Vaughan areas, well, we're approaching a balanced market. Now, are there pockets in Vaughan that are buyer's market? For sure. And this is why we need to be talking to you more specific on the neighborhood that you're more interested in, whether you're buying or selling. Are there pockets within Vaughan or anywhere else in the GTA that are seller's market? For sure, we're seeing that. In fact, we just sold a house in Toronto a couple of weeks ago that there's some other properties in the area, but with the proper staging and the proper marketing and the proper pricing, we sold it over asking in 2 days, where these other properties are still in the same neighborhood sitting out there now for a few months. So who you hires matters. Look, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information there. In general, we are still in a very healthy market. This is the new reality though. If our mind is still focused on the beginning of last year, you're doing yourself a disservice. We're in a very healthy market right now, approaching balanced in general, but that changes compared to the specific neighborhood you're in. Give me a call. I'd be happy to discuss your individual needs, or you can download this information plus a lot more charts that I've put together at VaughanRealEstateInsider.com. Thank you. Have a great day.